When I was 17, I wanted to be a lawyer. When I was 18, I was serving time for a crime I didn't commit, and the man who put me there was a cop named Tom Ridge. This is not a story about justice. This is not even a story about forgiveness. This is the story of what happens when the man who destroyed your life begs you to save his sons. Donald Brown was a good kid, smart, focused, raised by his mother in South Side Atlanta. He had one dream: law school. That dream ended on April 13, 1998. Darnell said, "They said I robbed a liquor store. Said I matched the description. Only thing I matched was my skin color. There was no real evidence, no fingerprints, no weapon found. But one man's word, Officer Ridge, was enough." Darnell said, "I went in a boy. I came out a ghost." Inside, Darnell found rage, but he also found resolve. He became his own advocate. Darnell said, "Took me 8 years, but I got my name back. Problem was, my life didn't come with it." Exonerated, forgotten, but not finished, Darnell became a public defender. The same system that broke him, he was now inside it, fighting for those like him. Voicemail, Tom Ridge's voice. "Darnell, it's Ridge, my son. He's been arrested. He needs help, and I don't have anyone else to call." Tom Ridge, the man who stole Darnell's youth, now begging for help. Darnell said, "I should have hung up, but I didn't. You know why? Because the part of me that still believed in justice wanted to see what kind of son a man like that could raise." Darnell meets Matt Ridge, mid-20s, angry, defensive. Matt said, "You're Donald Brown, the guy my dad locked up?" Donald said, "That's me." Matt said, "So why the hell would you help me?" Donald said, "Because nobody helped me." Matt was charged with aggravated assault and attempted murder. His alibi was weak, his father's reputation even weaker. Darnell said, "He wasn't just a bad cop, he was a proud one, and now he was a broken one." Courtroom drama, witnesses, cross-examination. Darnell attacks the system, not just the case. Darnell said, "This isn't just about Matt Ridge. This is about the boys like me who didn't have lawyers, who didn't have voices. This is about whether we believe in second chances or only offer them to the privileged." In defending the son, Darnell was finally confronting the father, not with revenge, but with truth. Matt said, "You didn't have to save me." Donald said, "No, but someone had to stop the cycle." Tom Ridge, now barely able to speak, reaches out to Darnell. Tom said, "You were always better than me?" Darnell said, "No, I just finally remembered who I was before you made me forget." Darnell said, "I used to think justice was a courtroom, but now I know it's what we do when no one's watching. It's what we choose when revenge feels easier than mercy." He never got an apology, but he got something stronger: clarity. In the months after the trial, Donald Brown became a reluctant symbol, not just of resilience, but of something harder to carry: mercy. They called him a hero, but Darnell knew better. He wasn't interested in their applause. He was interested in something else, dismantling the machine that almost buried him. Darnell said, "I didn't want to be famous. I wanted to be useful." Narrator. But while Darnell fought for justice, Matt Ridge was struggling with freedom. Matt was free, but not whole. He couldn't shake the shame or the shadow of his father. Matt and Darnell meet again, tension in the room. Matt said, "You saved me, man, but I don't know how to live with it." Donald said, "Then stop trying to erase the past. Start building something out of it." Matt slowly begins volunteering at a youth program. Struggles, stumbles. It wasn't easy. Redemption never is, especially when you were raised by a man who believed mercy was weakness. Tom said, "Tell me, did I ruin him too?" Darnell said, "No, you almost did, but he still had a chance, same as I did." In his final days, Tom Ridge didn't ask for forgiveness, he asked for truth. And Darnell gave it to him. Tom dies. Matt breaks down. Darnell stands with him. Sometimes the deepest healing comes not from justice, but from presence. Darnell, we don't need another prison. We need a a place that teaches boys how to be men before the system teaches them how to survive. Out of pain came purpose. Out of the man who was once a prisoner came a builder, news report said. The Ridge Center for Justice and Youth opened its doors today. Matt said, "My father was a cop. He thought power came from fear. But the man who taught me what real power looks like was the one he tried to destroy." Darnell never wanted to be a savior. He just refused to stay broken. And in doing so, he gave others permission to heal. Legacy is fragile. Build it from pain, and the world might still try to tear it down. For Donald Brown, peace didn't last long. Late night news, gunshots fired outside Ridge Center. One youth injured. Violence knocked on their door. And this time, it wore a different badge, rage, disguised as justice. Inside the Ridge Center, staff argue about shutting down. Darnell's voice cuts through. Darnell said, "If we shut this down now, what do these kids learn? That safety was a lie?" To protect the dream, Darnell had to protect the people inside it. Matt watches the news. Former cops and activists call Ridge Center radical. Matt Ridge didn't ask for a legacy, but he inherited one anyway. He walks out of a meeting, punches a wall. Darnell finds him alone. Matt said, "Every time I try to step up, someone reminds me of who my father was." Darnell said, "Then remind them of who you've become." The burden of redemption isn't in being perfect, it's in showing up again and again, even when the world doubts you. The Ridge Center became a battlefield, but Darnell wasn't afraid of war anymore. Darnell meets with city officials, calm, composed, but firm. Darnell said, "You want to shut this place down? Then look every one of those boys in the eye and tell them you chose politics over their future." He walks out in silence. A new youth arrives, 14 years old, angry, black, reminds Darnell of himself. Sometimes the past sends you a mirror. His name was Trevon. Trevon gets in fights, breaks rules. Matt tries to help, fails. Darnell steps in. Darnell said, "You don't scare me, Trevon. I was you." Trevon said, "You ain't me. You got out." Darnell said, "I didn't get out. I chose something else. Every single day. You can too." The Ridge Center is vandalized. Fire scorches part of the building. Darnell and Matt stand in the ashes. Matt said, "Why do they hate us so much?" Darnell said, "Because we remind them that change is possible, and that scares them more than anything." From the ashes, they rose again. Not because the world wanted them to, but because the kids needed them to. Darnell, Matt, and Trevon stand together at the center's rededication. Darnell said, "We don't measure success by how many times we fall, we measure it by how many kids we carry with us when we stand back up." This is more than redemption, it's revolution. One boy, one brick, one battle at a time. From the ruins of pain, they built a temple of promise. But no legacy stands unchallenged, not in a city that hasn't made peace with its past. They said the Ridge Center was a haven, so the old forces came to prove it wasn't, to make the kids fear again. Darnell holds a press conference, calm, deliberate, but the city council schedules a hearing to revoke their charter. Darnell said, "They want to drag us back into the dark, but we've learned how to shine." Tension built. Protesters gather in front of City Hall. Matt is ambushed on live. Radio host questions his legitimacy, his father's sins. Radio host said, "You think your daddy's name doesn't follow you? That you can just outrun what he did?" Matt said, "I'm not running, I'm building. There's a difference." Back at the center, Matt has a panic attack. Darnell finds him in the stairwell. Darnell said, "You don't owe anyone your shame. You already paid the price. Now pay it forward." Darnell and Matt testify at a public hearing. Opponents label the Ridge Center dangerous, anti-police. They came armed with lies. But truth has its own kind of ammunition. Darnell shows statistics. Drop in youth incarceration, school attendance, community engagement. Darnell said, "If building young black boys into men is dangerous, then maybe danger is exactly what this city needs more of." A surprise visitor, Tom Ridge's brother, a retired cop. He demands to speak with Darnell. Ridge's brother said, "You think you knew my brother, but he didn't die hating you. He died hating himself. He leaves behind a box of old letters Tom wrote while dying. One is addressed to Matt. Matt reads it in silence. We see his eyes fill with tears. Sometimes forgiveness doesn't arrive in person, but it still asks to be heard. Final council vote. The boardroom is packed. Protesters stand outside, tension everywhere. Council chair said, after hearing testimony and reviewing the evidence, the Ridge Center will retain its charter, unanimously. Explosions of joy. Darnell doesn't cheer, he exhales. Deep, relieved. The fight was over, but the work never ends, especially when the victory is survival. Graduation day at the Ridge Center. Trevin walks across the stage. Matt hugs him. Darnell stands to the side, proud. Trevin said, I thought I'd never see 18. You made me believe I could see 80. Now, this isn't just a story about racism, it's a story about what we choose to build when hate tries to tear us apart. Matt Ridge stepped out of his father's shadow and into his own name, not because he forgot the past, but because he refused to repeat it. Matt said, we don't need to be perfect, we need to be present. A mother hugs Matt, thanking him. Her son was on the brink, now he's on the honor roll. Where once there were chains, now there are blueprints. Where once there was silence, now voices that roar. Breaking news. A new mayor threatens funding for community projects with political bias. Just when the center stood firm, the system tried to shake the ground beneath it again. Darnell said, they can't erase what we've built. Not this time. Matt said, if you want numbers, we've got them. If you want stories, we've lived them. And if you want proof, come visit the kids who stopped fighting in the streets and started applying to colleges. Former students, now grown, arrive. They offer testimonies, write letters, and speak publicly. The boys they tried to break came back as men who would not let the next generation fall. Trevin, now in college, speaks on TV, cuts to others. Malik, a firefighter. Ania, a psychologist. Omar, a civil rights attorney. All alumni. Trevin said, without the Ridge Center, I'd be in prison, or worse. This place saved me, and I'm not alone. Malik said, this center taught me that being strong isn't about fists. It's about knowing your worth. Flashbacks of their youth, fights, broken homes, loss, then healing, community, growth. From shattered beginnings came a movement. These weren't just students, they were seeds. Now they're trees. Darnell in a doctor's office. He's aging, tired. A slow diagnosis, heart issues. He sits silently as the doctor speaks. Doctor said, you need to rest, or this work will take everything from you. Darnell watches kids play from his window. He closes his eyes, reflecting. Then he records a video journal addressed to the future. Darnell said, to whoever takes this torch next, don't let them make you bitter. Angry, maybe, but not bitter. Anger will move you. Bitterness will bury you. He smiles softly as a young girl waves at him from below. Darnell gives a final speech at the Ridge Center. Room full. Faces young and old, emotional. Banners hang. Founding mentor. Thank you, Darnell. Darnell said, the fight doesn't end, but neither does the light. It lives in you now, so keep it burning. He hands Matt a folder labeled The Next Chapter. Hugs him. Long applause. Then Darnell walks slowly out of the room. Some wipe away tears. He was a prisoner, then a warrior, then a builder, and in the end, he became a legacy. Not because he was perfect, but because he refused to let the story end in chains. Fade to black. Words appear. For every boy they tried to silence, this story is yours. Cut to the mural once more. A new edition. A small boy painting beside the figures of Darnell and Matt. A future continuing to write itself.